Peace, family. Welcome to another episode Underground Railroad Productions, UGR TV. This brother Rich. I'm on 125th, across the street from Impala with the brother Red Pill. Want to get into the topic of today, Red Pill. I know you got a beautiful daughter. How old is your daughter, Red?
She's
2 years old. Wisdom Bella, right? Wisdom Bella. So Red Pill has a daughter, so I thought it would be appropriate him to have this discussion with him. The world she lives in is going to be a different world in which we lived in. The world we lived in, we were taught and we were told that women should be dressed in 3/4 of cloth, and that was the appropriate way, and that would raise a good woman or a generation of good women. So what I'm seeing all in culture right now is that women ain't going for that no more. A good example of that would be, you got Farrakhan. He's more of people will call old school. He's critiquing Beyonce in the way she dressed, and maybe Jay should tell her to cover up more because she's such a cultural icon. You got people like Amber Rose organizing slut walks, saying that women shouldn't be held to double standards, or they should be held to the same standards as men. So my question to you, Red, is, and I thought about this, I said, I see the meme of this one time, so I said, at the appropriate time, I'm going to ask. I see the meme that was comparing Lauryn Hill to Beyonce. Now you have Beyonce, people criticize, people call her a whore, a stripper, a Satanist, so she does soft porn. Then you have Lauryn Hill, everybody loves her, they adore her music, the message she conveys in the music. But now that's the artist, but when you observe the personal life, Lauryn Hill was caught in a scandal in which Wyclef accused her of sleeping with him while she was getting married. In fact, that's the reason why they're saying the Fugees broke up in the first place. That's the main reason why they broke up. On the other hand, you have Beyonce that is considered, like they say, a stripper and all this and so forth. She never was caught in a scandal. Only been known to be with one man since she was a child. Didn't have a child till after she was married, as a matter, I think so, right? After she was married, she had a child. So we're teaching our daughters to dress a certain way, but the woman that's dressed the opposite way we're teaching our daughters is living a life or is conveying the message in her personal life that we want our daughters to live. We want our daughters to get married first or to find a man. We don't want them to have multiple babies by multiple men. On the other hand, we don't want our daughters to sleep around with men that are married. Something Wyclef accused Lauryn Hill of doing. So, Brother Red Pill, my question to you is, does the way a woman dresses, does that change how she behaves? Or is it all just some perception shit that we came up with one day that collective culture thought would be nice to tell the children to do just to, I don't know, to create a certain culture or whatever? But you get what I'm trying to say, Red Pill. Please elaborate on that. Thank you.
First and foremost, I want to say that was a very excellent question, powerful question. Once again, Brother Rich, thank you for asking that. Yeah, well, this is a very dear topic, because of the simple fact that I do have a daughter, and I'm very conscious of, how she's going to be portraying herself to the rest of the world, right? So first and foremost, answer to your question, you asked multiple questions, but the answer to your question is no. You cannot necessarily judge a person based on the uniform or the outfit that they wear. That does not determine, that's not a determining factor to the behavior, their sexual behavior, or rather, their sexual appetite, or rather how they carry themselves behind closed door. But being someone who is in fashion such as myself, I understand the power of the uniform. I understand the power of uniformity. I understand the perception of wardrobe. Case in point, if I were to show up in all red with rubber boots on and a fireman's hat holding a hose, you would assume that I was affiliated with the fire department. You would assume that there's some smoke somewhere. But when you show up and you're dressed in the way that we identify or we're familiar with women who are involved in the sex industry. Now, the sex industry is it is a huge industry. It encompasses prostitution, it encompasses sex workers, it encompasses strippers, it encompasses porno stars, it encompasses all kind of other sadomasochists, the women, the torture, the the S&M. dominatrix and stuff like that. So if a woman were to wear uniforms or outfits that mimic those outfits or those uniforms, then one would not be at odds, or one would not be in error if one was to assume that the person wearing that uniform is of that certain job description or carries out the same behaviors that the person that they attributed it to. You dig what I'm saying? So when I watch Beyonce, I'm not under the impression that this is a hooker that I'm watching. I'm not under the impression that this is a woman who sells her yoni for money. You know what I'm saying? But I know that this woman is selling sexuality. There's a Shakti energy that she possesses. I know the power of sexuality. I know the power of sex magic. I know the power of the sacred divine whore that Bobby Hemmett talks about. So when I'm seeing her and she's touching the base chakra, she's waking up the kundalini and whatnot, I'm appreciative of what it is that she brings to the table. Now, little children, innocent children who are raised in a Christian-minded, pseudo-Christian Judeo society, are they raised like that? Unfortunately not. Western society restricts sexualities and it suppresses it. Eastern societies and Eastern philosophy does the opposite. That's why you see people are very open with their sexualities overseas in places like that, especially, and also in the Caribbean. They're very open with this, you know what I mean, because of the temperature, because of the climate, because of the environment, because of the culture. Women are very revealing in their uniforms, in their outfits, and they're not selling a goddamn thing. You dig what I'm saying? So I would say my perception is somewhat skewed because I'm inside of Western society, and Western society dictates in their backwards perception of what is considered to be, you know, promiscuous, what is considered to be whorish, what is considered to be sluttish, and things of that nature. When we know that, you know, it's all an error. It's a European mindset, and it's a concept. Right? Because when we study our ancient culture, when we study our glorious, even all of our high civilizations, there were less clothes being worn than there are today. But henceforth, I said the word high civilization. I said the word when we were in a high civilization, meaning that we were operating from the higher chakras, meaning that we were more civilized, meaning that we wasn't savage in these streets. So dressing like that with this world in a savage state that it is, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, economically, culturally, right? It's dangerous. You know what I'm saying? It's dangerous. The thought culture is connected to the deaf culture.
Right. Now you say dressing like that in a savage culture is dangerous. Now, is it dangerous? Now, I'm trying to think, and I'm using a personal example for this. Is it dangerous for women in general? Because it seems like it's more dangerous for black women. And I'm trying to figure out, is this some Willie Lynch shit in us? Or they need to understand the culture in which they live in? And I'm going to use an example. I like to jog. So I go, you know, I live next to Central Park, so I go jogging, right? When I go jogging, Red, there be white women out there sunbathing, right? Damn near butt-ass naked in the grass. You might as well be topless. I barely notice, right? I just keep jogging. I barely notice them butt-ass in the grass doing whatever they do. The second I see a sister, I notice right away. So I'm like, it's like a double, you always heard a double standard. White women are allowed to wear things that black women are allowed to wear. During slavery, they used to, when they used to do things to black women sexually, they used to say that they're promoting it by the way they're dressed, something about their, you know, their sexual nature or whatever. What is it about, because it's something I don't want to say black women are over, they're not allowed to sunbathe in the park, but then a white woman can sunbathe in the park. Those rules should apply to both races. Why is it that we always notice when a black woman has on a skirt or when a black woman wears something? I know obviously it's because of their body. I know you're going to say that. But is this something that we need to think about with the way we think? Because these white women are getting away with wearing all types of shit, and the second a black woman do it, there's you know, they catch a flack for it.
Going back to what I said before, Shakti energy, right? Inherent energy that not only black women but black men possess. Remember, one of the most biggest threats to Western civilization is black sexuality. One of the biggest threats to Europeans, period, is black sexuality. One of the most adored and one of the most coveted qualities that we possess that all other races, nationalities around the world are intrigued by, encapsulated, and somewhat mystified by is our black sexuality. There's a video that I saw where the dude was on Venice Beach. He was in California interviewing a gang of pink toes, all kind of snow bunnies from every walk, every cave that you can imagine, all walks of life. And all of them were talking about how infatuated they are with the black man. You understand? We understand the Europeans' fixation, infatuation with his mother, the black woman. All right? Let's go back to the child and the motherfucking parent comparatives. Pardon my French. Let's go back to the fact that you're the parent, that you're the dominant gene, that you are the progenitor. Let's talk about pheromones. Let's talk about what we were talking about before, sacred geometry. Let's talk about symmetry. You know what I mean? Let's talk about art. Let's talk about cosmic art. Let's talk about the way that the planets rotate around the sun. Facts. You understand? So let's talk about, you know, the fact that the energy that we emit. Let's talk about the fact that, let's rewind the tape. Let's go back to the summertime, and in Times Square, you had this thing with these topless women. But all of the topless women were either European of a Spanish descent, and they were damn near looking like Europeans. They were topless with the Statue of Liberty or the American flag painted on them. Remember that? And there was an uproar. I went down there with a sister of a very dark chocolate complexion, right? And I said to her, you know, and she's very well endowed as well. And I was like, look, if you were to come outside with your body paint on, they probably would call the National Guard. You would stop the traffic in 42nd Street, and they would contact law enforcement to get you out of there, because the little European children that were tourists visiting New York City could not see a melanated a chocolate woman standing on 42nd Street with her breast out. And that's a fact. Too much beauty. Those artificial lights that they got out there, lighting up Times Square, does nothing. Compares. It cannot stand next to the light that will be emitted by a group of sisters standing there with body paint on, red, black, and green, right? Or red, gold, and green, right? With you know, showing their bodies to the world. But the European is able to do it. The European was out there with her boobs all out, walking around everybody. People are like, excuse me, watch out, pardon me. And they made a sideshow of it, showing you that what? Huh? You gotta pay $5. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm gonna have the picture on this video so you can see. And we did a post about it. We was like, that's simple, that's called simple science right there. So you see the power of our people. You know what I mean? Some people would be like, oh, they'll call the police because it's black people and they don't like us. No, it goes big, it's a lot deeper than that. You gotta look at it with your, you know, they live glasses. You gotta put on a different lens and look at it in a whole nother way. You have to look at it in a more empowering way. You cannot look at it from a victimhood standpoint because you won't get the power out of it. So our people are very, 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 very sexual in our nature as it is. And that's a power to that. There's an energy to that. Sex energy is what creates life. Sex energy is what keeps the goddamn world turning. Sexual energy is what gets this whole thing, it's what moves your energy around. It's how you gauge if you're alive or not. It's how you measure if you're a man or not, or if you're a woman or not, if your shit is functioning right. You understand what I'm saying? So You feel me? If you could get up. So, you know, peace.
Peace. We with some family with Be More. And since we're talking about, just to, you asked what we was talking about, just to fill you in. We was having a conversation about the slut walk and sexual energy and just this new wave of feminism, what they call feminism, that's taken over pop culture, where women want to be more sexually expressive these days. I want to ask you in particular. Now, when I grew up, when I was about 5, young, I always see my grandmother wear a skirt. And she came from a religious background, and she was taught that she could never wear pants. Women were extremely different back then. Now we're seeing a new wave of women that they're not scared to tell how many sexual partners they've been with. They're not scared to dress provocative. They're not scared to do the things that the men do. I want to get a sister's opinion. This sister's from Baltimore. What's your opinion on, the Amber Rose slut walk, just everything you see going on right now, where women feel like they should be just as sexual as men are allowed to be in society?
Basically, I don't agree with the slut walk, not at all. I was raised by my father, so he taught me early on that your reputation means a lot. Once you mess that up, it's hard to get it back. So from that point on, I guess back then I cared a lot about what people said, so I watched my moves real carefully so that people wouldn't have a reason to talk about me. Now I don't really care, but because I wasn't into that back then, I can't see me doing it now. The slut walk, personally, I feel like a lot of women have became more masculine, and a lot of the men had became more feminine. Right. So they kind of flipping the script a little bit. So where men was okay with telling their sexual partners or whatever the case may be, that was the thing to do. You talk about all that. Now it's kind of flipping now. These guys is more like women. They okay with staying home, taking care of the house, cleaning the house, or whatever the case may be, letting the women go out there and work. So it's kind of the more money I make, the more I feel like I'm up there and I'm a boss, because these guys ain't making no money. They not trying to work. They won't even go to McDonald's to get a job. That's basically what's going on. So it's to the point where it's you don't have no money, so be quiet. I'm working, I'm grinding, I'm doing this, that, and the third. You don't really have no room to talk. So I'm okay with being masculine or boasting and doing whatever it is that I gotta do, or say whatever I have to say, because you can't even pave your way. Right. So I guess that's what it is. So, but the sad part about it is that now that they're becoming more empowered, they were already slutty. So it's not like they were in a role where they were being women and knowing how to be classy or whatever the case may be. They're not standing up and being independent in that form. They're being independent now as sluts, and I don't agree with it. Amber, I just recently read about it, and it's funny that you said something about the slut walk. Amber says she basically is okay, or she forgives Kanye or Wiz for saying what they said about her. That's fine to forgive, but it's still not okay to run something with the theme of slut walk. I don't agree with that. Name it something else, not slut walk.
But if men are allowed to have multiple women, why shouldn't women be allowed to have multiple men?
I don't think neither party should have multiple partners, because the energy that's shared between the two, you just shouldn't. It causes chaotic energy and everything else. You just shouldn't have multiple partners, especially unprotectedly and everything. People don't understand when you have sex with somebody, you carry that energy over to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. And sometimes that same baggage that person had that you slept with, you bring it on to the next relationship. You feel me? So it's to the point where you can't understand why you're acting a certain way. You done picked up those traits from that same person, and now you're giving it to the next person. You know your shit, huh? Yeah, I kind of do. I read a lot, so that's what it is.
Just wrap it up. Give them a shout. Who you want to give shout out to? Anybody?
Oh, I'm Shawnee J. I'm from Facebook and Instagram, but now I kind of try to carry myself as royalty. I just encourage for all women that even if you didn't grow up with a father, to get that bond with a guy that actually wants to encourage you and empower you. You kind of learn those tricks. You kind of see how they act, so you kind of know what to pick up on the next guy for them to be your potential spouse. But peace and blessings to everybody else. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Red. So since you was talking about sexual energy, I got a question. A brother on Facebook left a very interesting comment, and it's something. Shout out to the brother Donald Hassani Heru Woods. And it's something I heard my uncle say when I was younger, and I want to get your take on this. It's interesting. I know many will agree, many will disagree, but the brother said that he was talking in reference to, now keep in mind, fam, we talking about sexual energy. So the brother, he referenced the Oregon shooter. Something, the Oregon shooter, he was crying about being a virgin or something. Now, the brother on Facebook said to legalize prostitution because sexual frustration breeds psychopaths and nobody wants to admit it. Now, this is the second school shooting that occurred. This is the second school shooting that occurred where somebody was crying about not getting women. The Asian dude that had the BMW, he was crying about not being able to get no woman. So, you know, when we was young, we always heard that phrase, when a nigga act extra aggressive, oh, that nigga backed up. You need to get some pussy to calm your ass down. So, do you think that prostitution should be legalized because everybody ain't gonna be able to get a woman that's willingly gonna, you know, that's gonna be in a faithful commitment with them, so they should be able to just to pay for something and get something just to calm their ass down? What do you think about that very interesting statement?
I don't think that there should be any. No, I don't think that that should be the reason to say that prostitution should be legalized in order for people to take shortcuts in life or to treat such a sacred, such a sacred art or such a sacred time or such a sacred behavior, such as sex, and to put a price to it or put a monetary value to it. That's just my personal stand on that whole situation. But keep in mind, I do understand the argument. I do understand the very strong argument that people will try to make, you know, to say that prostitution should be legalized, because at the end of the day, the way that the society has fallen, to the lengths the society has fallen, enables that conversation to even be had now. You feel what I'm saying? You could gauge the fact that we're in the throes of a dark age or a dark era because conversations like this is being had. We're in an era where you're allowed to have same-sex marriage. You dig what I'm saying? Biblically speaking, that would be reminiscent to the times of Sodom and Gomorrah and Lot and things of that nature. So you're dealing with a society that has fallen. The value system in society has fallen. So, you know, you have situations where people are, you know, the men of the society, the males of the society have not been raised, or they don't have a positive, you know, media, or they don't have a positive outlet in popular culture that will help give them the tools that's needed to have healthy relationships, thus having sexual relationships, thus, you know, bringing women, you know, approaching women not from a lower chakra standpoint, but actually approaching women from a higher chakra standpoint, getting to know them through their minds, getting to know their spirits, getting to know their purpose, doing readings, you know what I'm saying? Like going to your elders and things of that nature, having arrangements, you know, where different bloodlines and different families will put the children together and pair them up together based on their charts, based on their energy and whatnot. So back to the conversation that we were talking about earlier about us being in Rome, being in Western society, being inside of this Western society, the mind state of Western society, where, you know, I mean, it's Rome, it's barbarism taking place. Now, this is going to be controversial. This is not going to be well received by everybody when I make this statement, but there's a power to the strip clubs. There's a power to outlets that allow you to go and to release yourself from sexual frustration, being surrounded by gorgeous women who emit a level of Shakti energy that is known to be both healing. It is also known to be creative, the same way that you could create a child through sexual intercourse. You can also give birth to ideas and thoughts when you're in a highly sexualized environment. You know, so we had harems, right? We had belly dancing. We had places where we would be entertained by multiple women, you know what I'm saying, multiple gorgeous women, and they would be doing, you know, sacred dancing, chants, aromatherapy, Reiki, Tantra, you name it. But that's not what's taking place in Magic City on Mondays. You know what I'm saying? That's not what's taking place in Onyx. That's not what's taking place in Diamonds. That's not what's taking place in King of Diamonds. That's not what's taking place in Starlets and Lusts. You dig what I'm saying? But there's a very, very powerful energy, you know, that's taking place.
Well, what do you think about the idea of dudes, what they would say, wifing strippers or wifing hoes? You know, I think Luke came out and said Kanye made it cool for this generation to wife a hoe or to wife a stripper or whatever. And you know, as far as entertainment, because that's what people see on an everyday basis, you see more of that in pop culture where not prostitutes, strippers are now wives. You see more and more and more of that within our culture, and just regular dudes on the street. You hear more and more regular dudes just, yeah, that's my girlfriend, she strip, whatever. Do you think, because we grew up in you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, and now it's changing. That governed our culture. This is a different culture. So do you agree with the new guidelines that they have where, you can't judge that sister for being a stripper or whatever?
Excellent question. Excellent question. Man, I can speak from experience, you know what I'm saying? And I can also speak from an intellectual standpoint. And I could also speak from a metaphysical, occult standpoint. There's so many angles that you can answer that question. I would say that I've been in relationships with women who were involved in both the stripper industry and the sex industry before. These women were in consciousness. They were pursuing their higher self after going through a dark period in their lives, after going through a period of experience, after going through a period of discovery, after going through a period what we know as like the Sophia period, the period of lifting the veil, the period of, living on the edge, the period of the left-hand path and things of that nature. Yeah, so, inside of this community, you have a lot of women that exist in the community who've evolved, who've transformed, who've went through, butterfly phases where they were crawling on their bellies before as caterpillars, eating the dirt, you know what I'm saying? Doing the dirt, being in the underworld, being in the mud. Then they grew their wings. So they're worth, you trying to say that they can't be wifey material. You can't make that your wife. That can't be the queen on the chessboard. That can't be the queen of the castle. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who's already been through the fire. She been through the darkness. She's not enticed by that shit. She understands that she has a different perspective on what's real and what's not. Because she's seen life. A woman who's of a part of that world, they see the mask get pulled back. They don't gotta pop mushrooms or acid to see what this shit really is when the veil is lifted back. They've seen some of the darkest things in life, so they have a perspective that I honor. They have a perspective that means something to me. You know what I'm saying? They have a perspective. They have an influence over a group of influential people when they're in that industry. Think about that. Strippers have an influence over influential men and women just by their profession. They're like psychologists, therapists. You know what I'm talking about? They raise your energy. You know what I'm saying? They grant your wishes. They like genie bottles and whatnot. So, it's how you look at it. Now, dealing with a sister whose mind is not right and who happens to strip is the same way as dealing with a sister whose mind is not right and doesn't strip. You dig what I'm saying? She's not wifey material. If her spirit and her mind is not right, she's not wifey material. But to say that if she's in the club right now, at this moment, or if she was in the club, you know what I'm saying? That negates her or that doesn't make her wifey material, that would be an understatement. That would be us going back on our pseudo-Christian Judaic bag, throwing stones, casting stones on people, not realizing that we are all flawed, we are all evolving beings. So if they're not wifey material, if they can't get reformed, or if they can't be you know, given a ring to and children to. So the brother who sold crack to niggas' mamas, what about him? What about the shooter who took a few bodies with him? You know what I'm saying? Because those people are you know, those people are held up in society as desirable. What about the nigga that moves all the weight? So if you don't judge him, how you gonna judge? If he's not husband material, if you can't reform him, you know what I'm saying? If he's unreformable, then yeah, she's unreformable. But we know that that's not the case. And there's so many brothers and sisters that are teachers in the community that up on stages in front of millions of people who went through that route. Our brothers, Malcolm X, went that route. You know what I'm saying? He was reformed, right? He was crawling on his belly, you know, doing what it do. He was pimping and all that, selling women, you know. You know what I'm saying? He had him in the bando and all that. But we know what he turned out to be. So if you are patient with your people, if you have love, if you're able to bring the love, if you're able to help that healing take place, because most of our sisters that are in that profession find themselves in those industries, find themselves with certain mind states that even compel them to tap into that lower end, that Shakti energy, that red chakra. There's usually an injury that's involved. Facts, you know what I'm saying? So there's a level of healing that must take place, and that's what the conscious community should be able to afford. It's therapeutic homeostasis, holistic approach to healing people who have been damaged through Western society, Western culture, and other things, Christian culture, and all of that other stuff.
Brothers in arms, you
Do you think that from a man's perspective, do you think that we're viewing women from too much of an intellectual perspective, trying to understand them, and it's just leading us nowhere?
First and foremost, we need to let them talk. You know, I want them to tell me what it is. I don't want anyone else to tell me what it is. This conversation that we're having right now, we're speaking from a man's perspective on how we view our beautiful women out there. You know what I'm saying? And answering certain questions that we could speak of from our perspective. But when it comes to that, I would use I would do a survey, right? I would speak to women who I feel are qualified to, you know, on that topic to answer the question in an unbiased form, you know, where they're not trying to push an agenda. You dig what I'm saying? And I want to hear from them. But yeah, I definitely need to throw away the westernized concept of sexuality, the westernized concept of how we supposed to dress, what we supposed to do, how we supposed to talk, how we supposed to walk. All of these things need to be adjusted to a degree. So, you know, when a sister tells you that the bra doesn't feel right, if she feels restricted, there's something unnatural about that. I mean, well, God damn it, she knows what she's talking about. She's going back in touch with her nature. She's going back in touch with what works for her, and she's looking for a solution towards that. So as problem solvers, what we should do, you know, and by communicating effectively, is that we should say, really? Is that really how that feels? Well, let's sit down and come up with a solution to it. Let's find a solution together to these issues. If there's a void, then let's fill it together. You know what I mean? And I think that would allow us to grow in a better manner as we shed this old mind state and way of doing things and looking at things and moving forward as a collective, unified principles, both man and woman, male and female, negative, positive, however you want to paint it. We're talking dualities, we're talking polarities. That's the dimension that we live in, and we realize when you work together in a dualistic society, utilizing dualistic principles, we'll have more results than we have doing things what? individual or backwards like sun, sun, negative, negative, positive, positive. You know what I mean? AC, AC or DC, DC. You show me where you get results utilizing that science, and you know, you got one. But I doubt that you can do that. That's weird science. We're talking about real science. So we're talking about the unification of both principles as this divine feminine energy rises. We also have this divine masculine energy that is rising as well. The gods are waking up on both coasts. The gods are waking up in both bosoms of the heart, both female and male. So we got to credit both of that, but we have to shed the backwards thinking, Europeanized concepts of what sexuality is and what it isn't. So these artists that are pushing the envelope and are they're challenging your beliefs on what sexuality is supposed to look like, feel like, act like in a westernized society. It's interesting. You know, it's interesting. You feel what I'm saying? You know, very interesting. So I encourage us to continue having this conversation. I want to hear from some of the goddesses, you know, like the sister who came on earlier and dropped bombs and whatnot. I would love the sisters to take this conversation to a whole nother place.
Leave your contact info.
KTLempowerment@gmail. You know, we're looking for designers for, coincidentally, our Kings County, our Queens County line, our female line, so we could deal with the questions that Brother Rich is talking about designing some royal looking, some exquisitely designed pieces of fabric that's going to celebrate the beauty of our sisters, the beauty of our culture, and things of that nature. You know what I mean? So holla at us, you know what I mean? And peace and love.
All right.